Imagine living with complete freedom from the self-imposed rules that create needless suffering in your life. Imagine releasing the heavy burden of judgment, blame, and fear that you've been carrying since childhood. This isn't just a fantasy, it's the promise of The Four Agreements, the transformative book by Don Miguel Ruiz that has changed millions of lives with its simple yet profound wisdom. Drawing from the ancient Toltec tradition of Mexico, Ruiz reveals how our minds have been programmed from childhood with a set of rules he calls agreements, beliefs we have unconsciously adopted about ourselves and the world. These agreements shape every aspect of our lives, yet most operate completely below our awareness, creating limitations, fear, and suffering. The path to personal freedom begins with recognizing these agreements and consciously choosing new ones. The book identifies 4 powerful agreements that can rapidly transform your life when practiced with commitment. The first agreement: be impeccable with your word. Words have extraordinary power. They can elevate or destroy, heal or poison. When Ruiz speaks of being impeccable with your word, he means far more than just telling the truth. He's addressing the totality of how we use language, both with others and in our own minds. Being impeccable means using the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. It means not using words against yourself through self-judgment and criticism. It means not spreading poison about others through gossip and negative speech. It means recognizing that every word is a seed that plants something in the listener's mind, including when that listener is yourself. Think about how often you speak unkindly to yourself. I'm so stupid. I'll never be good enough. I always mess things up. These self-directed words are violations of impeccability that plant seeds of self-rejection and create emotional poison. Similarly, when you gossip about others or speak with anger, you're using your word to spread negativity rather than love. The practice of this agreement alone can transform your life. By becoming conscious of how you use language and committing to impeccability, you begin to clean up the emotional poison within you and stop creating it in others. Your relationships improve, your self-esteem grows, and you become immune to the negative words of others. The second agreement: don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. This agreement strikes at the heart of much human misery. We habitually interpret others' behaviors as if they were about us, creating stories about what these behaviors mean about our worth or lovability. Your colleague doesn't return your smile? You must have done something wrong. Your partner wants alone time? They must not love you anymore. A stranger is rude to you? You must deserve disrespect. Ruiz explains that each person lives in their own dream, their personal interpretation of reality shaped by their unique programming and experiences. When someone criticizes you, expresses anger toward you, or even praises you, they're really revealing their own dream, not an objective truth about you. Their reactions are based on their agreements, their fears, their beliefs, which have everything to do with them and very little to do with you personally. By adopting this agreement, you free yourself from the massive emotional drain of taking on others' psychological projections. You recognize that others' opinions are not the truth, but merely reflections of their own minds. You become liberated from the need for others' approval and immune to their criticisms. Your emotional well-being is no longer at the mercy of how others choose to treat you. The third agreement: don't make assumptions. We have a tendency to make assumptions about everything. The problem with making assumptions is that we believe they are the truth. We make assumptions about what others are thinking or feeling, and we take them personally. Then we blame them and react by sending emotional poison with our word. Making assumptions and taking them personally creates a whole dream of hell. Communication becomes challenging because we fill in gaps with our imagination instead of asking questions to clarify. We assume our partners know what we want or what we're thinking, then suffer when those unexpressed expectations aren't met. We assume we understand the motivations behind others' actions, then react to these imagined motives rather than reality. The antidote is simple, but requires courage. Ask questions. Express what you really want. Communicate clearly. When you don't understand, seek clarification rather than filling in blanks with assumptions. This practice creates authentic relationships based on truth rather than misunderstandings and projections. By implementing this agreement, you prevent countless conflicts, disappointments, and misunderstandings. You stop creating drama through imagination and instead deal with reality as it is. Your relationships become clearer, your expectations become more reasonable, and your suffering diminishes dramatically. The fourth agreement: always do your best. Your best will change from moment to moment. Your best is different when you are healthy versus when you are sick. Under any circumstance, simply do your best, and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. This final agreement integrates the first three. It acknowledges our humanity, that we cannot always be perfect in our practice, but we can always do our best in each moment. Sometimes your best will be extraordinary. Other times, when you're exhausted or ill, your best might be less impressive. The point isn't perfection, but wholehearted effort given your current circumstances. When you always do your best, you act from love rather than expectation of reward. You enjoy the action itself without attachment to outcome. You avoid self-judgment because you know you gave everything you could in that moment. You avoid regret because nothing more was possible. This agreement provides the action framework that makes the other three agreements more than just nice ideas. It transforms them into a lived practice, applied with the full force of your capabilities in each moment. These four agreements sound simple, and conceptually they are. But implementing them requires breaking deep habits of thought and behavior that have been reinforced throughout your lifetime. The agreements challenge the foundation of your domestication, the process by which you were taught to surrender your authentic self to meet others' expectations. Ruiz explains that we all live in a collective dream of society, having been programmed with countless rules about how to behave, what to believe, and who to be. Many of these agreements were made without our conscious choice when we were children, unable to question what we were taught. We accepted our parents' and society's beliefs, internalized their judgments, and learned to reject parts of ourselves to gain approval. The result is what Ruiz calls the mitote, the chaotic noise of thousands of contradictory agreements, all competing for attention in our minds. This inner conflict creates suffering as we try to meet impossible and contradictory standards that were never our own to begin with. The four agreements offer a practical path to freedom from this domestication. They provide new agreements to make with yourself, agreements that arise from your authentic self rather than external programming. By replacing the limiting agreements of your conditioning with these four simple but powerful new agreements, you initiate a transformation toward personal freedom. Practicing these agreements isn't about achieving perfection, but about increasing awareness. Each time you notice yourself breaking an agreement, taking something personally, making an assumption, using your word against yourself or others, you strengthen your ability to choose differently next time. The practice itself becomes a path of liberation, regardless of how often you stumble. The ultimate promise of the four agreements is nothing less than personal freedom. Freedom from self-limiting beliefs, freedom from the opinions and expectations of others, freedom from fear-based ways of living. It offers a path to what Ruiz calls a new dream, one based in love rather than fear, in truth rather than illusion, in authentic self-expression rather than conformity. This new dream isn't some distant utopia. but a practical possibility available through consistent practice. With each agreement you implement, you reclaim more of your authentic power and experience greater peace, stronger relationships, and more joy in daily living. The process transforms not just how you relate to yourself, but how you interact with everyone around you, creating ripples of positive change far beyond your individual life. The profound impact of these 4 simple agreements explains why this modest book has sold over 8 million copies and been translated into dozens of languages. Its wisdom transcends cultural, religious, and social boundaries because it addresses universal human experiences of suffering and offers practical tools for liberation that anyone can apply, regardless of background or belief system. The question that remains is this: are you ready to examine the agreements that have been running your life on autopilot? Are you willing to challenge the beliefs that create your suffering? And most importantly, are you prepared to make these 4 new agreements with yourself? Not just intellectually, but as a lived practice that transforms how you experience each moment of your life. The choice, as always, is yours. But as millions have discovered, these 4 simple agreements hold the power to change everything.